So we are now going to go into showing you how Muhammad committed shirk through the satanic verses, all right? And as I kind of giving you guys a hint, I was kind of showing you all these things. I've got all the riwayats, I've got all the early sahabas, I've got scholarship, I've got everything to show you that Muhammad committed major shirk. Major shirk is called shirk akbar. When you commit shirk akbar in Islam, there is no way you can stay as a Muslim. There's no way to come back. Muhammad committed shirk akbar. Now, there are two ways to spot a false prophet. If a prophet speaks a word in God's name that God did not command him to speak, he is a false prophet. Or if a prophet speaks in the name of other gods, if he promotes polytheism, he is a false prophet. Everybody will agree to this, correct? I'm not going to have people sitting down and saying that no, this is not something that happens. Okay, so we'll all agree if you have a prophet that speaks a word in God's name that God did not command him to speak. God doesn't tell him to speak that word. Gives a revelation that God never gave it to him. He's a false prophet. Or if a prophet speaks in the name of other gods, he's promoting other gods, i.e., promotes polytheism, he's a false prophet. That's basically what I'm saying, okay? So interestingly, Muhammad did both, according to Muhammad himself. According to Muhammad himself. Now, you have various books. You've got Tabari, who has many, many chains. Some chains have a problem with it, but there are plenty of other chains that don't. I've got 50 riwayats that vast majority, like super majority of them, are really good that prove this point. But I'm just going to walk you through this here, and just keep in mind, discussing about which chain is acceptable, which chain is not acceptable is moot, because I've got over 50 reports on this. Okay, I've got over 50 reports that I have broken it down. I have the book, I have the riwayats, I have everything. I have the chain, I have the everything in it, everything that you want. I even have hadith science that I've looked into that talks about what is acceptable as a hadith, what is not acceptable as a hadith, what does Sahih Mursal mean, is Mursal accepted or not. I've done all that homework. So we'll discuss that later. For now, I'm just going to read things out to you and tell you what happened. So, in Tabri's volume 6, History of Tabri book volume 6, in which Muhammad confesses to having fabricated a revelation. He is confessing it. It says in here, by the star when it sets, your comrade does not err nor is deceived, and the messenger of God recited it until he came to, have you thought about Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, the third one and other? When Satan cast on his tongue two phrases, these are high-flying cranes, verily their intercession is to be desired. Now, what is this talking about? It's talking about specifically this particular 2252. Okay? In chapter 2252, it says, and we did not send before you any messenger or prophet except that when he spoke, Satan threw into it some misunderstanding. But Allah abolishes that which Satan throws in, and then Allah makes precise his verses, and Allah is knowing and wise. Okay? Now, that's the backdrop. Now, the other backdrop is when it tells you in the tafsir what happened. In the tafsir of Jalalain, you will see, and even Ibn Kathir will tell you, what happened. What happened is this background, my friends. What happens is, this is earlier on in Muhammad's life where he's trying to convert people into Islam. When he's trying to convert people into Islam, he's having a tough time. They are pagans. All the Arabs prior to Islam were all pagans back then, correct? They're all pagans. Okay. So now, here's the deal here, all right? Here's the deal here. They're all pagans. So Muhammad is coming there and saying, I want to convert you guys. So he's having a tough time. So he says something to them. He, in an effort to please them, says, you know what? you can be both a Muslim and also a polytheist. You can continue to pray to your goddesses, pagan goddesses, Alat, Al Uzza, Al Manat. Those are the three crane goddesses. That's what happens in there. Okay? So now, when he says that, Jabril comes to him after that and said, "What have you said to them?" And he says, "What? What did I say?" And he says, "You said something. Satan put words in your mouth, and you told them that they could be polytheistic, they could worship their goddesses, and be a Muslim at the same time. That is something Allah never told you in His revelation." And so Muhammad gets very upset that he said that. And therefore, you have then this verse comes in 22:52, where Allah comes in and saves his skin and says, "Oh, no problem. It has happened before. I'll take care of it." But the fact is, once Muhammad says that, once Muhammad goes ahead and tells people that, listen, you can pray to your pagan goddesses as well as be a Muslim, he has now elevated the pagan goddesses at the same level as Allah. Therefore, he's made them partners with Allah. Therefore, he has committed major shirk akbar. And shirk akbar means you're thrown out of the fold of Islam. You are never allowed in the fold of Islam. Back again. You are never, ever, ever allowed in the fold of Islam back again. I will bring up guests in a little bit. Let me just go through this first, and then then I'll bring them up. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is, I already read you right there, where it said earlier, by the star when it sets, your comrade does not err nor is deceived, and the messenger of God recited it until he came to, "Have you thought upon Alat, Al Uzza, Al Manat, the third one, and the other?" So he tells them about this. Have you considered them? You can consider them. When Satan cast on his tongue two phrases, "These are high flying cranes, verily their intercession is to be desired." Okay, that you can go ahead and use them as your goddesses along with Allah. Here's Jalal Jalalain's tafsir that talks about it a little bit more. I'm going to read this to you. "And we did not send before you any messenger Rasul. This is a prophet who has been commanded to deliver a message, or a prophet Nabi, one who has not been commanded to deliver anything. But that when he recited the scripture, Satan cast into his recitation what is not from the Quran, but which those to whom he, the prophet, i.e., Muhammad, had been sent would find pleasing." That means who Muhammad is saying it to, they would really like it. But which those to whom he, the prophet, had been sent would find it pleasing. So Satan cast something in his recitation that the receiving party, the pagan Quraysh, would really find it pleasing. The prophet had, during an assembly of the men of Quraysh, after reciting the following verses from Surat Al-Najm, "Have you considered Alat, Uzza, and Manat, the third one," which is in chapter 53, verse 19 to 20, you will find it, added as a result of Satan casting them onto his tongue without his prophets being aware of it, the following words. Those are, so now, this is what it's telling you what Muhammad actually said. It said, "Have you?" A part of it was removed from the Quran, so the tafsir is actually explaining it. Okay, uh, let me say that again. Chapter 15, verses 19, 20, added as a result of Satan casting onto his tongue without his prophet being aware. So Muhammad wasn't aware what he was saying apparently of it. The following words. This is what he said. "Those are high flying cranes, al gharanik, al ula, and indeed their intercession is to be hoped for, and so they, the men of Quraysh, were thereby delighted." So Muhammad says, you can use those, pray to those goddesses and have them be your intercessors, the pagan goddesses, along by being and be a Muslim. So it says, so they, the men of Quraysh, thereby were delighted. They were pagans, they were happy. Okay, all right, we can do both. We don't have to give up on our pagan goddesses. Then it says, Jabril, however, later informed him, the prophet of this, that Satan had cast onto his tongue, and he was grieved by it. but was subsequently comforted with the following verse that he might be reassured of God's pleasure. Now that means Jabril comes and tells him, "What the hell did you do? This is not something Allah told you. You gave them. You broke both the rules of identifying a false prophet. Right here it is. Remember the two rules. If a prophet speaks, if a prophet speaks a word in God's name that God did not command him to speak, he is a false prophet. Or if a prophet speaks in the name of other gods, pagan gods, for example, if he promotes polytheism, he is a false prophet. So this is what Jibril is reminding him. But then it says, but he was subsequently comforted. It says, but he was subsequently comforted. That means Allah came and subsequently sat down and said, "Oh, no, 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 I'll save you." But was subsequently comforted with the following verse. That means the verse that I just read, 22:52, when he says, "Oh, yeah, everybody's done it in the past, Satan has done it." Allah says, "No problem, no problem, I'll take care of it." Comforted with the following verse, uh, that he might be reassured of God's pleasure. Thereby, God abrogates, nullifies what Satan had cast. Then God confirms his revelations, and God is the knower of Satan's casting, of that which has been mentioned wise in his enabling him, Satan, to do such things, for he does whatever he will. So, in other words, Satan does whatever he does. God came and took care of this. But the fact is, he did it. He did it. Okay? He very much did it. All right, now we're going to go into a little bit more over here. So we read that. So the background is that Muhammad was upset because his tribe did not accept him as a prophet. Satan used this opportunity to slip some polytheism into the Quran. Okay? Muhammad was receiving Surah 53. Then the passage begins, by the star when it sets, your comrade does not or is deceived. Surah 53. Okay, let's go to Surah 53. The Quran verse starts, chapter 53, verse 1 says, by the star when it descends. You want to know something as a side note, folks, which is kind of funny here? Why is Allah swearing by the star? Why is a God swearing by the star, a created thing? What the hell is happening here? Right? He swears by stars. Anyways. And it starts with, your companion Muhammad has not strayed or erred, nor does he speak from his own inclination, but it is not but a revelation revealed. So that means everything Muhammad says is revealed to him, taught to him by one intense in strength, i.e. Gabriel, one of the soundness, and then he rose to a true form. Anyways, so what it's saying in here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the passage starts with, by the star when it sets, your comrade does not err nor is deceived. That Surah 53:1, which I said, notice swearing by the star, by the way, is shirk. The messenger of God recited it until he came to, have you thought about Alat al-Uzza al-Manat? That means you go to 519 and 518, 520, 518, pardon me, 53, verse 19 and 20, okay? Where it says, have you thought about Alat, Al-Uzza, Al-Manat, the third one, okay? Those were the pagan goddesses. That's what Satan had set up into his tongue, right? Now, these three pagan goddesses were called high-flying cranes because they were bird goddesses, okay? Who would carry your prayers up to Allah. So their intercession was to be desired. They would carry your prayers to Allah so you could go directly to them as intercessors, right? So Muhammad delivered verses promoting polytheism to his followers in the Quran. Got it? So this part about the high-flying cranes interceding for Muslims was originally in Surah 53:21 of the Quran, but Muhammad later rebuked by Jibril for promoting polytheism. He gets rebuked for it. It's no longer there. So Surah 53:21. Wait, let me just double check something before I believe that 21. Yeah. And they switched it and changed it to, is the male for you, and for him is a female. Originally 53:21, ladies and gentlemen, had the part about him promoting polytheism. So they removed it. Okay, now Muhammad here in the book continues to acknowledge what he did. When Jabril comes to him and say, hey, what did you do? So I'm going to read that part from Tabri's book. That evening, Jabril came to him and reviewed the surah, okay, with him. And when he reached the two phrases which Satan had cast upon his tongue, he said, I did not bring you these two. So Jabril is saying, what the hell? You said this stuff to them? I did not bring those two revelations. Then the messenger of God said, I have fabricated things against God and have imputed to him words which he has not spoken. Let me read that again. Muhammad said, then the messenger of God said, I have fabricated things against God and have imputed. That means I've attributed. I have said something that belongs to him. That were his words. That weren't really his words. That were not his words, and have imputed to him words which he has not spoken. Again, ladies and gentlemen. Again, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take you back. What did we start off by saying? Here we have two ways to spot a false prophet. If a prophet speaks a word in God's name that God did not command him to speak, he is a false prophet. Or if a prophet speaks in the name of other gods, if he promotes polytheism, he's a false prophet. Both of these Muhammad did. Okay, and he is confessing to them right here. He is confessing to them. That is shirk akbar. That is major shirk. That is shirk that you cannot come back from. There is shirk that you're thrown out of Islam and then you can work your way back. Shirk akbar, khalas, finished. You cannot come back from it, ladies and gentlemen. That is shirk akbar. Okay? Here is in the actual book. Here's the book, screenshot right here. Satan cast a false revelation in the messenger of God's tongue. Okay? Here it is. And when Satan cast on his tongue two phrases, these are high-flying craves, verily their intercession is to be desired. He uttered them and went on to complete the surah. When he prostrated himself at the end of the surah, the whole company prostrated themselves with him. Al-Wahid al-Mugharib raised some dust to his forehead and bowed over that, since he was a very old man and could not prostrate himself. That was the guy who put some dust on his forehead. They were satisfied with what Muhammad had uttered, the pagans. The pagans were satisfied with what Muhammad had uttered and said, we recognize that it is God who gives life and death, who creates and who provides sustenance. But if these gods of ours intercede for us with him, and if you give them a share, we are with you. Listen to what it's saying. The pagans are saying, if you allow us to both pray to our God and your God and still be Muslim, then we'll be Muslim. That's what it says. Okay, we recognize that it is God who gives life and death. This is what they're saying, who creates and who provides sustenance, that means food. But if these gods of ours, that means the pagan gods, intercede for us with him, and if you give them share, that means you allow us to share our God with your Allah, we are with you. So Muhammad said, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. That evening, Jabril came to him and reviewed the surah with him. And when he reached the two phrases which Satan had cast upon his tongue, he said, I did not bring you these two. Then the messenger of God said, I have fabricated things against God and have imputed to him words which he has not spoken. Boom! Boom! He confesses. He confesses, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? He confesses. By the way, how did Satan influence this man? Because we learn in Al-Suyuti's book that Jabril, I got my Jabril spelling wrong. What does it look wrong to me? Anyways, yeah, in Al-Suyuti's book Al-Kahasis Al-Kubra by Imam Jalaluddin Al-Suyuti, volume 1, page 135, 136, he says in here that Jabril came to Muhammad when he was a child and removed all evil from him. If he removed all evil from him, how the hell did Satan be able to get evil in him? His inability to say anything evil. One day, Hazrat Jabril came to Prophet Muhammad prophet, when he was playing with the children, Jibril took the prophet, laid him down, opened his chest, removed his heart, and then he took out a clot of blood and said, "This was a portion of Satan within you." After that, he washed the heart with water of Zamzam in a golden basin, restored it to its place, and then sealed his chest. The other children ran to their foster mother, Halima Saida, and said, "Muhammad has been killed." When she came running, she found that his color had changed. Hazrat Anas says, "I saw the marks of the stitching on Prophet's chest after this incident." Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, how the hell did he still have evil, Satan becoming? Just FYI. According to them, they did all this stuff, okay? Chest splitting and all this rubbish, okay? All this, okay? Chapter 69, verses 44 to 46, ladies and gentlemen, say, "And if Muhammad had made up about us some false sayings, we would have seized him by the right hand, and then we would have cut from him the aorta." Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He died of poisoning. When he was on his deathbed, he says, "Oh, I feel like I'm dying from the poison that I ate at Khaybar that has continued to bother me, and it feels like my aorta has been cut." All right, anyways, continuing on with the Tabri thing. It says, "He remained grief-stricken and anxious until the revelation of the word," okay, until the revelation of the word. Okay, all right, I need to get down and come back again. Muslims are getting nervous that I'm reading their Quran and their Hadiths and their scholarly book. So they're reporting me. Keep on hitting likes, guys. Keep on hitting likes. I need to jump down and come back up again. Down. They are so nervous about this stuff. They are so nervous about me just reading their books, homie. All I'm doing is just reading their books, dude. They don't want you to know that their prophet committed shirk. That their own scholars are saying that. That their very own scholars are saying it. Okay? So they're reporting me. Keep on hitting likes down there, guys. Get the likes going, okay? And then hit the share button, the arrow icon on the bottom right, and hit the yellow repost. I guess I got a restriction, so it might not work. But keep on sharing. Just share and like. Now it continues to say in the book, "He remained grief-stricken and anxious until the revelation of the verse, 'Never did we send a messenger or a prophet before you,' to the words, 'God is knowing and wise.'" That is still this verse that I just showed you, right? 22. They said he remained grief-stricken till Allah came and saved him. This one, chapter 22, verse 52. Okay? Which talks about the satanic verses. All right. Now, it says that never did we send a messenger or prophet before you, but when he did recite the revelation or narrated or spoke, Satan threw some falsehood in it, but Allah abolishes that which Shaitan throws in it. Then Allah establishes his revelation, and Allah is all knowing and all wise. Okay? So Allah's response to Muhammad delivering a false revelation, promoting polytheism, promoting prayers to pagan goddesses is, "Hey, bro, don't worry about it, Muhammad. This happens to all prophets. Abraham, Moses, John the Baptist, they all delivered false revelations from Satan here and there, apparently. For the first 2 centuries, folks, now comes the interesting part. Scholarship. We're going to talk about the scholarship. For the first 2 centuries, folks, the satanic verse incident was nearly universally accepted by the early Muslims as authentic, and only later Islamic theologians rejected it as hearsay. In Sahab Ahmad's book, Before Orthodoxy, that's the book which I have, right, ladies and gentlemen? I showed you the book here. That's the book I have. This is the book right here. Okay? In that book, The Satanic Verses in Early Islam, Ahmad states that the reports of the satanic verse incidents were recorded by virtually every compiler of the major biography of Muhammad in the first 2 centuries of Islam. He is saying in the first 2 centuries, Sahaba, Muhammad, Sahaba, Tabayin, they all said, yes, he did say these satanic verses. Ahmad states that the reports of the satanic verses incidents was recorded by virtually every compiler of the major biography of Muhammad in the first 2 centuries of Islam, and he gives those examples. Moreover, all the first and early second century reports agree that the Prophet uttered the satanic verses. The reports of the satanic verse incidents were recorded virtually every compiler of a major biography of Muhammad in the first 2 centuries of Islam, and he names it Zubair, Zuhuri, Uqba, Ishaq, Abu Mashhar, Yunus bin Bukhar, and Al Waqidi. It's that. Oh, Jay, it's just you're showing me screenshots, Jay. This is the book. This be the book, homie. This be the book. Right here, he's saying the same thing. He's saying the same thing in here. He says in here, let me see here. The Satanic verses incident is a name given in Western scholarship to what is known as the Islamic tradition of Qiyasat al-Gharinik, the story of the cranes, or the story of the maidens, which narrates the occasion on which Prophet Muhammad is reported to have mistaken words suggested to him by Satan as being divine communication, that is, as being the part of the Quran. These satanic verses praise the pagan deities of the Prophet's tribe and acknowledge their power to intercede with the Supreme God by uttering the satanic verses, Supreme God, sorry. By uttering the satanic verses, Muhammad thus committed the error of compromising fundamental theological principle of divine message of which he was a messenger, namely the absolute and exclusive unicity, Tawheed, of one God, Allah. He broke Tawheed. For the last 200 years, to be a Muslim, one should believe that the satanic verses incident did not take place. He's talking about 200 years from now, prior to us, okay? For these last 200 years, everybody, all Muslims believe that the satanic verses did not take place. That is, the contemporary Muslim, the modern Muslim, should not believe that Prophet Muhammad recited the words of satanic, the verses of the satanic, sorry, let me read that again. That is, the contemporary Muslim should not believe that the Prophet Muhammad recited verses of satanic suggestion as divine inspiration. In other words, for modern Muslims, the satanic verses incident is something entirely unthinkable. But the truth is, he says, the reason for my writing this book is that as a straightforward matter of historical fact, this Islamic orthodoxy of rejection of the facility of the satanic verses, that means the authenticity of the satanic verses incident, has not always obtained. The fundamental finding of the present volume is that the first 2 centuries of Islam, that means the Sahaba and Tabayin, Muslim attitudes to the satanic verse incident were effectively the direct opposite of what they are today. They're opposite of what they are today, i.e., they accepted it. This volume studies no less than 50 historical reports that narrate the satanic verse incident and that were transmitted by the first generations of Muslims. This study of the satanic verse incident in the historical memory of the early Muslim community will demonstrate in detail that the institute constituted as an absolutely standard element. That means it was the truth, 100%, that he did say it, in the memory of early Muslims of the life of the Prophet. In other words, the early Muslim community believed almost universally that the satanic verses incident was a true historical fact. As far as the overwhelming majority of the Muslim community in the first 200 years was concerned, the Messenger of God did indeed, on at least one occasion, mistake words of satanic suggestion as being divine inspiration. For early Muslims, the satanic verse incident was something entirely thinkable. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about. Okay? That's what we're talking about. And they have 50 riwayats of this. I'll start accepting people coming up now. Okay? They have 50 riwayats on this. 50 reports, ladies and gentlemen. 50 reports. 50 reports. Report riwayah 1, 2, 3, all of these here. Look at this. 50 riwayah reports. 50. Talking about it. This happened. This absolutely happened. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It happened. Okay. Now you even have some of the other scholarship. This is modern scholarship. Jonathan A.C. Brown is a Muslim, a Palestinian. His father-in-law got deported from the U.S. for funding terrorism. Go figure, they got to be Muslim, right? Anyways, he's the one who also says yes, this absolutely took place, and what the early Muslims, the first two generations, said it did take place. All right, and here's the sweet one. This is Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah saying yes, it did happen. In Majmu' al-Fatah, and then I've got the actual screenshot from it too also here. The early Islamic scholars Salaf collectively considered the verses of cranes in accordance with the Quran, and from the later coming scholars Khalaf, who follow the opinion of the early scholars, they say that these traditions have been recorded with authentic chain of narration, and it is impossible to deny them, and Quran is itself testifying it. Ibn Taymiyyah, Majmu' al-Fatah. Even Ibn Taymiyyah says that it happened. What? That's what happened. Okay? So I'm going to do something right now. I am going to restart this live because they've got the restrictions out there. I want you to come back, guys. Let me go ahead and restart this live. All right? Let me do this. So come back in 2 or 3 seconds, and then we will continue with this topic and ask people what's up.